startups begin in communities across the country.
Why does Silicon Valley get so much credit? My name is Nick Castner.
And I'm Kaitlyn Claeys. We're interviewing the people building startup communities across America.
But in the areas no one is talking about, the middle.
This is the Ecosystem Builder Podcast by Mug.News.
Happy New Year, everyone. I am with my co-host, Kaitlyn, and we thought as 21 comes to a close, thank God, we would touch base between Kaitlyn and I just to kind of reflect on everything we've been working on and then where we're currently sitting at. So, Kaitlyn, to start with, do you have any fun New Year's resolutions? Are you a New Year's resolution person?
Oh, yeah. Well, personally or for the show?
I guess both.
Yeah. Personally, I am looking forward to being more focused. That is my, big goal. So, I created a couple YouTube videos for the Mug.News channel on how to get yourself organized, in addition to how to kind of clear up some mental health and how to approach a better lifestyle of that sort. So, I'm excited to kind of lean into those subjects a little bit more. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, so personally, I don't always have one. However, I've been the past 3 months, even before going on the holidays, I've been really bad on my health, both nutrition, what I've been eating, but also exercise and all of that. So I'm going to use the cliche resolution of I hope to work out and eat better. So ask me in March, but fingers crossed. Hopefully that actually comes to fruition. So then going into so Kaitlyn, how long have we been working together on the Ecosystem Builder podcast? Probably since June, July, August, maybe.
Yeah, something like in the summertime is when we got started.
Yes, yeah. So I thought the first sort of fun topic would be what our biggest learning has been since we started.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I'll share a little bit of personal tidbit. I actually was very intimidated when we started this podcast. I thought, I was maybe I shouldn't say that, but I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And but as I have researched, and our ecosystem builders have given us so much content, information, and resources to look up afterwards, and I did, and I'm oh, this isn't so bad. This isn't so scary. And I feel that as an interviewer now that I've kind of grown in that sense. So these questions aren't as scary anymore. And I think that's actually helpful for our listeners. So entrepreneurs who are learning about ecosystem building, I hope that when they watch this and when they listen to us, that they come to realize, same as me, where it's oh, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you?
I would say probably even beyond you, and not even you in the context of the show, but just you in general and just working on our other Mug News content is improv. And because we've done a few improv things like the last Ecosystem Builder episode, but then as sort of team building Mug.News exercises, we've done some improv, and the last little portion of our show is basically improv, kinda. It's a little scripted because we know what topics we're gonna go with, but the banter, I wasn't very good at bantering on podcasts beforehand. So I think working with you, my band, that last portion of the show, I think got a lot better quickly. It was episode 4 or 5. I was hot damn, I think that was pretty good. So I would say my biggest learning is picking up how to banter, if that makes sense. How about your favorite moments, Kaitlyn? Anything come to mind?
Let's see. I loved hearing Andy Stoll's story of how he kind of so I'm interested. I like film and that sort of thing. So it was fascinating to get to hear his perspective on how he incorporated the two. And then this is kind of a small thing, but Ezzy Redwood and I just kind of fangirled over oat milk for a second. And I mean, we've talked about this in our banter in the end of that episode. It was so funny. He was a very personable person. So it was like just really lighthearted and talking about these big terms of ecosystem building while also humanizing as well. So those were some like things that made me laugh, made me smile, and made me like really love the show and getting to meet all these people. What about you?
So the episode that Tom Chapman crashed. Tom is, I guess, the founder of Mug News. And was that with Andy Stoll?
That was with Scott Resnick.
Scott Resnick. And Scott, I'm going to leave out portions of the story. I would encourage you to go back and listen to this episode if you haven't recently. But Scott was the like standing mayor of whatever town he's from, and the police tackled him while he was standing mayor. It was like for the evening because he was like the head of city council, and then the mayor was out of town. So he took over the mayorship for like the weekend, and then it was like Halloween, and there was something weird with Halloween that he was tackled. And of course, Tom is friends with him, so comes to the meeting and just kind of crashed the interview. That was like he pre-planned that with Kaitlyn, and then makes him tell this story, which I'm sure he would never ever have told on a hot mic. But that was one, and then. As far as my own interviews, I really like talking with Christina Oldfather. I have both lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, and have spent a bunch of time there. So it was fun to just sort of talk with her about like the nitty gritty of ecosystem building, and it's a conversation I wouldn't have asked such detailed of questions just in conversation. You know, like when I see her at the coffee shop or bump into her at events, I wouldn't have asked like such specific questions, but in an interview format you can, and then sort of pry at those answers. So that was really, really good. And then
I was wondering then.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna ask. So when you're kind of talking about, so you're a native of Lincoln, or you've lived there for quite long. I can only imagine what it's like to almost like act as though you're a tourist in your own home, and like. I think of that. So when you actually travel somewhere, I'm visiting home, so I'm actually noticing all the differences of being home. But also I can imagine that it must feel somewhat similar when you're interviewing ecosystem builders from where you're at. Is that...
Yeah, a tourist in your own home, I think, is a very, very good like description of it. And there's also like, there were things like Huddle is a sports tech... a sports technology company out of Lincoln that has like I think a $500 million valuation. It's a huge company. I have a whole bunch of friends that work there. So when we started talking about like biggest startups and biggest entrepreneurs and biggest companies that support the ecosystem, Huddle to me is like always top of mind. And Christina listed like 5 to 10 other companies and didn't even mention Huddle. So it's just one of those, like, just interesting, the difference of perspectives. And now as we move into 2021, do you have any goals, or what do you hope the show achieves moving into the next year?
So one thing that I would love to see as we move forward, I would really hope that we can get some listener involvement somehow. I'm thinking perhaps if we do polls, or if we do something, and we can like discuss too of like things that we can approach. But I'd love to see what listeners have questions about that we haven't thought of. We have a very good list of questions, but I'd be so curious to see what listeners are also interested in. Could you tell me more about something? That's like one of the first things that come to mind for me.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Or even if you're listening and we haven't interviewed the ecosystem builder in your community, like reach out and let us know, and we'll schedule an interview with them. That we're definitely like more than the people behind the screen or people behind the microphone or coming at your earbuds. Very good answer, Kaitlyn. I like that. I like the goal. So I'm always I've recently accepted a job at Herdat, and then all of my like entrepreneurial work was absorbed by that company. in my new role, I'm marketing podcasts and helping grow the audience. So that's a big goal I obviously have for this show, is how do we grow it and how do we get more people to listen and all of that. So that's sort of what I've been putting a bunch of thought into. But then that community building, there's actually, are you familiar with Clubhouse? Have you heard of Clubhouse?
No, actually.
So it's worth even just downloading after this. It is sort of like a Facebook group, but it's in a podcast form. So you hop on and then you get on your microphone and then you just basically talk to people, and one person hosts a discussion and then can leave it. It's very similar to a Facebook group in the sense of like the person who hosts the discussion can choose, can anyone contribute to the discussion or can only them talk. And then there's also like an invite, like some groups you can just join, other ones you have to be invited to. And I think that is just a good one. Once you check it out, and then after the new year, we should touch base about, because I think there would be a cool way to incorporate that into our podcast. So there's all these like a new and emerging technologies that I am interested in how to incorporate them in the show, like Clubhouse. I've thought a lot about starting a Mug News TikTok, and you suggested it from like the get-go. First time we met, you're like, we should be on TikTok. And I think now we're to the point that like, I think TikTok makes sense. And if we could somehow do it in a way that like you make a TikTok a week, I make a TikTok a week, we get Justin can make a TikTok a week. And then, yes, yeah, he for sure is a TikTok personality. Scott can make it.
We got Scott to do a TikTok. He's got teenage kids, so we'd be able to. There's no excuse.
Yeah, there's absolutely no excuse. And I think it'd be one of those, like, we'll suggest it. He'll roll his eyes, and then, but he'll secretly kind of want to do it. So it'll take like over a span of like a couple like minutes. He'll be like, all right, I'll do one just to try it or something, and then we'll get him commit. So 2021 goal,
you guys, and then he realized, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
sorry,
that's
yeah.
fun. I can't wait till our meeting today. We can talk to him then.
Yes. All right, Kaitlyn. Any parting thoughts for our listeners of the Ecosystem Builder podcast of that? Because we've now released about 15 episodes, and excited to move into 2020. So.
Mm-hmm. I guess parting thoughts is thank you so much for coming on this journey. I feel that I've learned so much as we've gone along. I hope that that's helped our entrepreneur listeners and other ecosystem builders who are interested in this content. And I really hope that you do reach out and ask us questions and ask us for people to interview. So just a thank you and Happy New Year. And I hope that you take the skills that we've interviewed the ecosystem builders with and apply it for this new year.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually had one that I almost forgot to mention. Kaitlyn, I would consider you like a pretty good friend. Like over the last 6 months, I think of you as a friend, and it goes to show like what the status of 2020, that we've never been in the same room. We've only talked over Zoom,
which is true.
Yes. So, like, that is, like, if you would have told me that a year ago, like, before 2020, like, before the pandemic hit, that would have been a weird concept. Or even, like, 10 years ago, you would have been like, what? Like, you're good friends with someone and you've never been in the same room as them. But, thank you. Like, I'm happy we met and then developed this little relationship. And, you are a wonderful podcast host, Kaitlyn, so...
In that note, I want to say thank you as well. You have been an incredible co-host. Thank you for being a great leader. In addition to, we have become friends, and I am in agreement with never meeting someone in person and having like this bond. So thank you for being a great friend. And it's truly been an incredible experience on this journey. So
thank you. Thank you. With that, we'll read it out.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Ecosystem Builder Podcast, which is a product of Mug.News and hosted by Nick Castner and Kaitlyn Claeys. If you have any questions about today's episode, connect with us on Twitter @Nick Castner, @Claeys Creates, or @MugNewsOfficial. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share with your friends. We release episodes every Wednesday morning, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.